Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Berman. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. And I just want to welcome everybody to what is consistently my favorite evening of the year. And I'm so glad to see all of you joining us here tonight. So many familiar faces, a lot of new ones as well, for GVSHP's 33rd annual meeting. I want to first of all thank our very generous hosts, the New School. Yes. And I'd also like to say thank you in advance to our wonderful awards committee for their terrific work in selecting this year's honorees. They had to go through scores and scores of worthy nominations. I'd also like to thank the wonderful GVSHP staff and our volunteers for making tonight's event possible. Yes. And of course, I want to thank all of you for attending, especially those of you who submitted among the many great nominations that we received this year. And I want to encourage you, if your awardee did not win this year, in most cases it takes many, many years of nomination, so please stick with it. We know there are many, many worthy people, places, and organizations out there. So before we get to our awards program, it is my distinct pleasure to provide you with a review of GVSHP's activities and accomplishments over the past year. First of all, in May, GVSHP staged its major annual benefit, our eagerly anticipated house tour. This year, I'm glad to say it was a stunning success, our highest grossing ever, enabling hundreds of tour goers to access some of the most impressive and enticing private homes in the village while raising nearly a quarter of GVSHP's annual budget. So thank you to everybody who supported that. And you know, it's really a small army that puts that together, a committee of more than 20 dedicated individuals, 6 generous homeowners, dozens of businesses, and more than 140 volunteers. Over the past year, membership support for GVSHP, which comprises about 75% of our annual income, rose by nearly 15% in terms of both the numbers of individuals supporting the society and total income raised. Over the past 10 years, the number of our members have grown by nearly 200% to nearly triple, while membership support has grown by 600% to 7 times what it was 10 years ago. So thank you to all of our wonderful members here for keeping GVSHP strong. New members come to GVSHP through a variety of means, one of which is our ever-changing and expanding programming. This past year, GVSHP conducted 45 public programs attended by nearly 2,000 people, almost all of which are free and, with the exception of our members-only events, open to the public. These ranged from widely attended lectures about Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat to intimate guided tours of the New York Public Library map room, East Village culinary hotspots and community gardens, and tracing the path of Minetta Stream. Meanwhile, the dynamic GVSHP broker partnership continued to expand its continuing education program for the real estate community, helping to educate this incredibly important segment of our population about the value and history of preservation, while also staging fun programs which raise the profile of and funds for GVSHP. Superstorm Sandy, which disrupted so many of our lives last year, also heavily impacted our children's education program, closing schools and upending classroom curricula at one of the most popular times of year for the program. Nevertheless, in the past 12 months, GVSHP served more than 1,100 students in grades 1 through 7 from throughout the 5 boroughs, using in-class sessions and a tour of the village to teach about immigrant history, urban development, and 19th century life in New York. While our traditional educational programming has been steadily growing, our virtual presence has exploded. In the last year, our website has had more than 115,000 unique visitors and 260,000 page views, sharing everything from advocacy updates to oral histories with preservation pioneers to virtual tours of historic sites in our neighborhood. Our blog, Off the Grid, launched in February of 2011, has been especially popular, with nearly 90,000 visitors over the past year and nearly 135,000 unique page views. Since its launch, Off the Grid has had more than 150,000 visitors and nearly 250,000 page views. The blog has been a great opportunity to reach a worldwide audience and to connect our neighborhood's history with those interested in the fine arts or popular culture, trivia or trailblazers, researching or reminiscing. Our online presence has also been a great tool for helping local residents learn about what's going on right now in our neighborhoods and how they can get more involved. Our Landmarks application webpage is the first and still the only one of its kind in the city. It provides invaluable information on every single application for changes to landmarked buildings in our neighborhoods that require a public hearing. It lets you see the history of the building, the proposed changes, when and where the application will be heard by the Community Board and the Landmarks Preservation Commission, and it tells you how you can provide in-person, emailed, or written testimony before a decision is made. It tracks the application for months, or in some cases for years, from its first filing to its resolution, letting you know of any modifications to the application, new meetings that have been scheduled, or decisions that have been rendered, and allows you to sign up for alerts to update you on all such developments. In just the last year, more than 6,200 people have used this webpage, and individual application pages have been viewed more than 18,000 times, making this an incredibly useful and widely used tool. Of course, we don't just let the public know about these applications. GVSHP carefully reviews every single one of them ourselves, and when appropriate, issues alerts to our members and recommendations to the Community Board and Landmarks Preservation Commission to ensure that the character of our neighborhoods are preserved. In the past year, our Preservation Committee has reviewed 84 such landmarks applications, ranging from storefront alterations to rooftop and rear yard additions, demolition, and new construction, all while continuing to track an additional 30 applications from prior years still under consideration. This is just the tip of the iceberg of GVSHP's advocacy work, and this past year was particularly eventful. In October, the city designated the East Village Lower East Side Historic District, that neighborhood's first large-scale historic district covering 325 buildings and 15 blocks. And I know we have many people in the room here tonight that were intimately involved with that. Combined with the smaller East 10th Street Historic District designated earlier that year, these were the first new historic districts in the East Village since 1969, and increased tenfold the number of buildings in the neighborhood with historic district protections. In March, after a protracted and a particularly heated campaign led by GVSHP, the city finally agreed to vote to landmark Phase 2 of our proposed South Village Historic District, first proposed by GVSHP in 2006, and they also agreed to complete a survey of the final segment, or Phase 3, south of Houston Street, also before the end of the year. But when the city came out with their proposed boundaries in April, while they included about 85% of what we had proposed, they left out a row of 10 1840s houses on Houston Street and 2 low-rise contextual NYU buildings on Washington Square South. Without landmark protections, these buildings could easily be replaced by wildly out-of-scale construction. In the case of NYU's Vanderbilt Hall, the zoning would have allowed a 300-foot tall building right there on Washington Square South. GVSHP rallied our members, allies, and elected officials to demand that these sites be added into the proposed district before the boundaries were finalized in late May. I am very gratified to say that after significant pressure, including from many of you here today, all 12 of these buildings were in fact added back into the officially calendared proposed South Village Historic District now under consideration. We even scooped up an additional NYU building into the district, D'Agostino Hall, which was now entirely surrounded by the rest of the proposed district and therefore could no longer be excluded. While this building is of no particular historic significance and under existing zoning could not be replaced with a larger building, I'd still rather have more safeguards against future NYU expansions than less. Of course, our work in the South Village is far from over. There'll be a public hearing next Tuesday, June 25th, that we will need all of you to attend, and hopefully all of you received a flyer when you came in with information about the hearing, how you can participate, send a letter, etc. We'll need you there to demand that the district be designated, to call for these additional sites to remain in the district, and to urge the city to finally move on the long overdue Phase 3 south of Houston Street. Now, speaking of NYU, of course, not all the news this year was good. In July, the City Council joined the City Planning Commission and the Borough President in giving final approval to NYU's massive village expansion plan with only minor modifications. While we were able to get the outrageous project reduced in size by about 20%, and through public pressure got one of the most objectionable elements of the plan removed, a proposed 400-foot-tall fourth tower for the landmark Silver Towers complex, the approved plan was still simply much too dense, too disruptive, too tall, and too lacking in consideration of reasonable alternatives. As a result, GVSHP did something it's never done before. We joined with dozens of fellow community and preservation groups, including two of tonight's awardees, NYU Faculty Against the Sexton Plan and the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, in a lawsuit challenging the city and the state's approval of the plan. Our suit is now before a judge, and we have been joined not only by Assemblymember Deborah Glick as a plaintiff, but two former city commissioners have submitted briefs supporting our claims about the flaws in the approval process. We are next scheduled to appear in court on July 18th, and I hope all of you will join us for that hearing as that fight continues. Fortunately, our advocacy successes over the last year have not been isolated cases. As this is the last GVSHP annual meeting of the Bloomberg administration, we thought it appropriate to take a quick look back at what we have been able to accomplish over the last 10 years against considerable odds at times, and at times overwhelming pressure to help preserve our neighborhoods. Moving west to east, in 2003, GVSHP secured the first expansion of historic district protections in Greenwich Village since 1969, the Gansevoort Market Historic District. And I know we have many veterans of that battle here in the audience tonight. After we turned our attention to the Far West Village in 2004, this was followed in 2006 by the first extension of the Greenwich Village Historic District and the new Weehawken Street Historic District. In 2007, GVSHP got the remainder of the Gansevoort Market Historic District listed upon the state and national register of historic places. So we're kind of trying to fill in all those gaps on that map, but we still have a ways to go. Moving to the South Village, the city designated the first phase of our proposed South Village Historic District in 2010, also as an extension of the Greenwich Village Historic District. As mentioned previously, the city has now agreed to vote before the year's end on the second phase of our proposed South Village Historic District, while also agreeing to survey the area south of Houston Street for a third and final phase. In NoHo, GVSHP joined with many others to help secure designation of the NoHo East Historic District in 2003, and in 2008, we strongly supported and celebrated the designation of the long overdue NoHo Historic District extension. And in the East Village, 2012 saw the aforementioned designation of the East 10th Street and East Village Lower East Side Historic Districts, which we intend to ensure are the beginning, not the end, of the expansion of much-needed historic district protections in that neighborhood. Absolutely. Our landmarking success has not been limited to historic districts. GVSHP has proposed and secured individual landmark designation of 5 sites in the Far West Village, including the 13-building, full-block West Beth complex. Also, 9 federal-era houses, including 3 on McDougal Street, 2 in Hudson Square, 1 on St. Mark's Place, and 3 in the financial district. IMP's Silver Tower complex, including its Picasso sculpture, was also designated in 2008, and Webster Hall on East 11th Street, and finally 128 East 13th Street, the city's last surviving horse auction mart, the former studio of the artist Frank Stella, and a World War II women's assembly line training center. GVSHP also supported the designation of more than a dozen other individual sites which were landmarked throughout the Village, East Village, and NoHo over this time. Additionally, GVSHP fought for and helped secure 4 contextual rezonings to protect the character of our neighborhoods. These prohibit out-of-scale new construction, encourage the preservation of existing buildings, and eliminate the incentive for dorm and hotels construction, which previously existed in many of our residential areas. This included the 2005 Far West Village rezoning, which just lit up there, and the follow-up 2010 Washington and Greenwich Street rezoning. In the East Village, in 2008, we were able to get nearly the entire neighborhood rezoned with a contextual rezoning. And in 2010, we got the follow-up 3rd and 4th Avenue corridor rezonings. In all, over the course of the last 10 years, GVSHP has helped secure landmark designation of over 1,000 buildings and community-friendly contextual rezonings of nearly 100 blocks of our neighborhood, a virtual small city of preservation within our ever-changing metropolis. And if you could just advance one slide, please. I have to say it was very fun over the last couple of days counting up all of those buildings and blocks. Our next annual meeting will come within the first months of a new administration, which will no doubt present new challenges as well as new opportunities. But with your support and assistance, I'm confident that GVSHP will be able to rise to those new challenges and seize those new opportunities. How successful we all are will have a lasting and irreversible impact on the Village, East Village, and NoHo for generations to come. I hope you'll remain by our side as we chart the road ahead. Thank you very much. And I would now like to ask Marianne Arisman, who is the co-chair of our nominating committee, to come up here.
Good evening. GVSHP's nominating committee is entrusted with the task of searching out new members for our Board of Trustees and confirming the continued engagement of current trustees whose term is due for renewal. I would like to take this opportunity to thank John Bacon, who is stepping down from the GVSHP board this year. John began his service with GVSHP as a volunteer for our annual house tour and as a member of the Development Membership Committee. He was elected to the board in June of 2007. He began to co-chair GVSHP's Development Membership Committee in 2007, taking full chairmanship of that committee in 2009, a role he served in until last fall. We are pleased to report that John will continue to serve on that committee, particularly advising about planned giving. John, we are deeply thankful for your service, and we look forward to your continued involvement. Thank you. It is now with great pleasure that I present the slate of trustees recommended by GVSHP's nominating committee to be voted on by all GVSHP members this evening. A reminder that all dues-paying members, when you entered, were given a green, GVSHP green bookmark. This will be used this year as a voting card. So when I call for the vote, please raise your voting card instead of your paddle as we had in previous years. I present to you the slate of trustees renewing for a 3-year term. These candidates have already been serving on the board and are renewing their candidacy. Please stand if you're present. Penelope Barrow, Kate Bostock-Shefferman, Cynthia Penny, Catherine Schoonover, and Fred Wistow. All in favor of this slate, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Against? Against? I think the slate is approved. Thank you. Next, I'm pleased to present one new candidate for a 3-year term for the GVSHP board. Marilyn Sobel is an attorney, a partner at Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Morton, and Garrison, specializing in mergers and acquisitions and private equity. Marilyn has served on the board of New York Live Arts and Dance Theater Workshop. Marilyn is a longtime GVSHP member. She lives on West 11th Street and has raised her 2 children in Greenwich Village. All in favor of Marilyn Sobel being elected? Thank you. Against? The slate is approved. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn the program over to someone who needs no introduction. He is a village neighbor and our regular impresario for the awards, Calvin Trillin. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. I said the introduction should be simple. What I had in mind was something like "not since Mark Twain," something like that. That's fine. One more correction to Marianne, and that is, as a village resident, I used to live in the village, but some years ago it became gradually clear to me that I was living in the West Village. My house has not moved. It's been sitting there like a lump since 1840. But I'm now told, and I've never been quite clear, and I've asked a number of people, including people in this organization, what the West Village is, whether it's opposed to Fifth Avenue or opposed to the East Village, and I've never gotten an answer. I'm reminded of my grandfather, who lived in one of those villages that was taken over by various countries at various times, every few weeks maybe, something. And before he managed to make his way to America, he claims he deserted 3 separate armies. I have lived in the village, I guess, since 1961. And where I live now since 1969. There have been some changes, of course. We all have seen that, been some consolidation. I bank on Sheridan Square, and I wrote a poem once that was called "A Bank Has Swallowed Up the Bank That Swallowed Up My Bank." I still have checks that say Manufacturers Hanover Trust, so my main shopping street is Bleecker Street, west of whatever direction that is, between 7th Avenue and Abington Square, which has seen a lot of changes. If I need shaving cream, I'm in trouble, but if I'm in the need late at night for a designer dress, I'm in the right spot. Of course, some of these changes have been enhancements, like the wonderful path along the Hudson. I ride along that path sometime on my bike, and I look at some of those big buildings that have been, apartment buildings that have been built there, and the particularly glassy one doesn't seem to have anybody in it. And I'm constantly reading about one celebrity selling an apartment there to another celebrity. They do everything but live in it. Reminded of, I did a murder story years ago in a beautiful part of Central Oregon, and there was a llama ranch near there, and somebody said, some of the llamas there are worth $25,000. And I said, what do you do with a $25,000 llama? And the answer is you find someone willing to pay $25,000 for a llama. These changes, as I say, some of them are good. I think the Greenwich Village Society for Historical Preservation is not in the business of stopping change, but of trying to channel it in a way that preserves the historic traditions and culture of the village, which is a different place. I've said here more than once, I'm sure, that I once asked Kenny Shopson, whose restaurant used to be on Morton and Bedford, what's the difference between the village and uptown, Kenny? And Kenny said, I don't know, I've never been uptown. At any rate, what we're doing tonight is giving awards to people who have been working in the same direction to preserve the place, to conduct businesses that help the neighborhood and that have something to do with the neighborhood. We have two independently owned pharmacies, one in the East Village and one in the West Village, around the corner from my house. We have two community organizations, one working to preserve the historic Bowery, the other outspoken critics of the expansion of New York University. We have a small gem of a city park, beautifully maintained by dedicated volunteers. And we have a man who single-handedly brought trust and communication between his East Village neighbors and the local police precinct. I'm going to tell you one thing about the local precinct. That would be the 6th precinct where I live. I was walking, this was about 15 or no more than that, 20, 25 years ago, walking along Hudson Street, and I saw a $20 bill on the sidewalk. It was late at night, and my wife said, "You've got to turn it in." And I said, "Turn it in," and a poor person might have dropped it, she said. Well, I was strictly raised as far as honesty. I think I can honestly say that I was the only boy in the Midwest who was not allowed to drive a day before he could legally drive. My father was very strict about that, and I wasn't worried about the $20 bill. What I was worried about is if I went to the 6th precinct and handed in a $20 bill, they might send me to Bellevue. And I know they keep you there for 24 hours, and it's not a comfortable spot, not where you want to go. But then the next morning she said, "Have you been to the precinct yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't." She said, "I told the girls, my daughters." I said, "Okay, here I go." And I went there, and the guy looked at me sort of funny, but he did take the $20 bill. And then I realized all kinds of things have happened in the 6th precinct. As far as I know, there could be a guy on Perry Street who turns in his own 50s once a week. They've seen everything. And a few months later, I got a call from the police department, "Come and get my $20 bill." No poor person had claimed it. Our first award is one of the drugstores. And it's the one I deal with, I'm happy to say. Avignoni Chemists, originally located at 59 McDougal Street as the stock pharmacy in 1832. Avignoni Chemists is now located along a quiet strip of 6th Avenue between Bleecker and Downing Street. I would call that bleaker near 6th Ave, but we can argue about that. The name Avignoni came into being in 1898 when Italian immigrants Francis Avignoni bought the business. The current location was built for the Avignoni brothers in 1929, when the pharmacy's original location was slated for demolition due to the widening of Houston Street. Now owned by partners Abe Lerner, Andrew Fruchtman, and John Duffy, Avignoni draws its passerby and regulars alike with creative window displays, particularly great at Christmas time, and a traditional green cross above its sign. The wooden display cases, tin ceiling, and penny tile floor installed during a renovation 6 years ago are set off by antiques saved from the stays of Francis Avignoni, including pharmacy bottles, a first aid kit, and clock. A vintage prescription book in the window, one of which even has a prescription or two filled when the store was located on McDougal Street, showcases the store's historic importance as one of the city's oldest pharmacies. The New York Historical Society has 6 Avignoni prescription books in its manuscript collection. Of course, customer service is key to Avignoni's success. They offer beauty aids that are hard to locate in chain drugstores. I haven't gotten any of those, as you may know, but I'm happy that they're there for people who need them. Regulars are known by name, and strangers should not remain so for long. Customers rave about their extensive product lines and praise the excellent service of the pharmacy counter. Service at Avignoni goes beyond its physical wall. The pharmacy sponsors a Greenwich Village Little League team, donates to Our Lady of Pompeii School, and lends a hand in the adjacent Winston Churchill Square, with which it shares a facade and an award this evening. Avignoni Chemists has presented a Village Award for 115 years as an independent Greenwich Village pharmacy with exceptional service to the customers, their community, and their history. Here to accept the award this evening are owners Abe Lerner and Andrew Fruchtman.
Thank you, everyone. I suspect Frank Avignoni would have a hard time recognizing the state of pharmacy and healthcare overall today. It was quite different back in the 1800s, but despite all the changes and challenges, we are still here and intend to be. I'd like to thank everyone involved in the Society for this honor, and especially Judith Calais and her hard work on our behalf. I would also like to thank Calvin Trillin. I heard he had some kind words for us at a previous meeting. And I would also like to thank my clientele, my patient bed, who really make it a joy to come to work every day. We are part of the community, we are part of the village, and we are made to feel so every day. On behalf of my partners, John Duffy and Abe Lerner, and my staff, and myself, I thank you very much.
We now present the Regina Kellerman Award to the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors. Regina Kellerman Award is presented each year in honor of the Society's first executive director, who dedicated her career to the preservation of the architecture and built environment of the village. The Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, a vocal advocate for the preservation and appreciation of the Bowery as one of New York's most invaluable and irreplaceable historical and cultural resources, follows in Regina's preservation footsteps. Although portions of the west side of the Bowery are located within landmark and special zoning districts, development pressures are abundant. The east side of the Bowery lacks any landmark protection. Current zoning favors larger, taller buildings, and the street's low-income residents are at risk. Formed in 2007, the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, or BAN as they are known for short, is working to mitigate these development pressures. Formed by David Mulkins and Anna Salwan, the group sponsored a state and national Register of Historic Places nomination for the Bowery. The nomination was successfully listed on the state register in 2011 and the National Register early this year. BAN is grateful to Kerry Culhane and the Two Bridges Neighborhood Council for co-sponsoring the nomination. BAN has also completed a zoning survey for the east side of the Bowery that proposes contextual zoning for the east side of the Bowery from Chatham Square to the south to Cooper Square in the north. They recently won a well-connected booster for their east side preservation plan when filmmaker Martin Scorsese wrote a letter in support of zoning protections for the neighborhood in which he grew up. In addition to the group's research and advocacy on behalf of the neighborhood, they also work to educate about the culture and historical resources of the city's oldest street, hosting walking tours, exhibitions, lectures, and forums. BAN's educational activities have brought to light the role of the Bowery in fostering some of our country's greatest cultural achievements. BAN is 5 years old this year. We look forward to seeing what it accomplishes in the next 5. The Regina Kellerman Award is presented to the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors for its tireless advocacy for the history of the Bowery through documentation, education, and fierce determination. David Mulkins, Chairman of the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, will accept the award this evening.
I wanted to introduce Jean Standish, Michelle Campo, Sally Young, and Mitchell Grubler, and also present are several other members, Gilda Pervin, Chris Mansfield, Tom Clem, Louise Millman, Ralph Lewis, and there are many people that we wanted to thank. For starters, I wanted to thank GVSHP for this great honor and for your support and extraordinary work that inspires all the preservation groups in New York City, because nobody does a better job. For help and partnership, we deeply thank Joyce Mendelson, Mike and Marilyn Geyer, Nicholas Quinnell, Tony Tung, Bob Holman, Stan Rees, Mick Maloney, the Irish Arts Center, Merchants House Museum, Dixon Place, Lesby, EVCC, Chinatown Working Group, Cooper Square Committee, Sperone Westwater, and City Lore. For financial support, many thanks to Robert Gibbons, Adam Woodward, Keith McNally, John Darien, Andre Balaj, the late Tony Goldman, the La Vida Feliz Foundation, Puffin Foundation, Victorian Society, the Jeffy Fund, the Walensky Fund, and the New York Preservation League. Extra special thanks to Kent Barwick, to the Lower East Side History Project's Eric Ferrara and Rob Hollander, the Historic Districts Council, Doris Diether, who's sitting over there, who designed the East Bowery Preservation Plan that we're still fighting to help preserve the street. Two Bridges Neighborhood Council for fiscal conduit and also partnership in the National Register effort. Architectural historian Kerry Culhane for her brilliant work in doing all the work on the National Register. If any of these people are here, would they please stand up? Thank you. Native American Trail, Dutch Farm Road, site of the first streetcars, and Lincoln's epical anti-slavery speech at Cooper Union, the Bowery is Gotham's oldest street. It has a seminal connection to the Astor family, to tap dance, American slang, Yiddish theater, vaudeville, the vaudeville hook, which you may need before this is over. Stephen Foster, Irving Berlin, Houdini, baseball, and Bugs Bunny all have a seminal connection to the Bowery. The gritty, much-loved watering hole for immigrants, gangs, and the working class and gay Americans, it was here that Mae West told Cary Grant to come up and see her sometime. Even during its later decline as a flophouse district, it nurtured cutting-edge artists in a colony that preceded Soho, and even helped foster abstract expressionism, beat literature, punk rock, and our first community garden. An extraordinary accomplishment for one small, vulnerable street. With buildings from nearly every decade, from the 1780s to the present, the Bowery contains the city's most diverse architecture. It also contains mixed-income residents and small businesses, including long-established jewelry, restaurant supply, and lighting districts. Despite its National Register designation, few streets are more vulnerable to the wrecking ball, ferocious real estate speculation, and sky's the limit zoning on its east side are destroying its historic character and displacing residents and small businesses. As freakishly out-of-scale towers rise, some of our oldest, most significant buildings are being destroyed, along with the Bowery's grit and cultural diversity. For 7 years, as residents and property owners, we've worked to raise consciousness, landmark buildings, and broaden support for the East Bowery Preservation Plan, which simply seeks to extend the 85-foot height caps which have helped protect the Bowery's west side to its vulnerable east side. 5 historic neighborhoods, Chinatown, Little Italy, the East Village, NoHo, and the Lower East Side all converge on the Bowery. So it makes sense that its profile blend with the surrounding low-rise sense of place. The Bowery does not need midtown skyscrapers. It is a significant, commercially thriving district that desperately needs zoning protection, a New York City historic district, and may we suggest a Bowery museum. If anybody can help in any way, please come over and see us sometime. Save the Bowery, and thank you so much, GVSHP.
Sir Winston Churchill Square may be the smallest thing named after Sir Winston Churchill. It measures in at just 0.05 acres. The site was acquired by the Parks Department in 1943. It was redesigned in 1999 by the Parks Department to include more garden space. The park's central feature is a pedestal-mounted armillary, or if you want the Litvak pronunciation, armillary. An astronomical device that is also used to tell the time. Through one of these pictures, you can actually see the Avignoni Pharmacy through the armillary. Locals report that the square's armillary is quite accurate. While most of the park is surrounded by a decorative iron fence, the park's western edge serves as an entrance to the Downing Street playground, ensuring a steady stream of children and their parents through their space. And their grandparents, I have to say. For my grandchildren, that's called the secret playground. The park depends heavily on the assistance of volunteers who contribute both labor and funds for the park's upkeep. For many years, the Bedford Downing Block Association has kept the park ship-shape. Today, the park's biggest champion is Bleecker Street resident Bert Waggett. Never happier than when... That's his imitation of a garden troll, and I think it's very persuasive. Never happier than when his hands are in the soil, Bert takes care of the square as a volunteer with Partnerships for Park, a group that has given generously to the square, even providing a grant for a new planting shed. While Bert has devoted countless hours to the park, his biggest contribution just may be his creation of a formal upcycling program within the Parks Department. Bert, learning that plants and hardscape material would be thrown out during the renovation of Washington Square Park, negotiated with the local district manager of the Parks Department to recycle the materials for use in Churchill Square. Now plants and stones have a new life. Due to Bert's ingenuity, smaller community parks without big budgets can access materials being removed from their larger counterparts. A Village Award goes to Sir Winston Churchill Square for providing a beautiful Greenwich Village oasis while fostering volunteerism among neighbors, cooperation with the police department. Manhattan Borough Parks Commissioner William Castro and Bert Waggett will accept this award this evening.
Indeed, Sir Winston Churchill Square is a New York City park too many people have never heard of. It's a tiny, secluded, 2,178 square foot park at the intersection of Bleecker Street and 6th Avenue. Quite easy to overlook. Our park is one of the many grateful beneficiaries of what we call the Great Washington Square Park Plant Rescue Operation, spearheaded by Ralph Muzzolino and Parks Department staff, who in 2008, along with neighborhood volunteer groups, picked up shovels, breaking a few, in a upcycling initiative that ultimately rescued thousands of Washington Square Park trees, plants, and shrubs from the oncoming bulldozers during that park's reconstruction. There is a constant need for this sort of sharing among park volunteer groups, and we have been campaigning for creation of a network to do exactly that. A hotline which will list surplus plants, trees, and shrubs available for reuse among neighborhood parks. We hope this concept expands and takes hold throughout the entire park system. Our park also is an example of the benefits we enjoy as a result of close collaboration with Kirsty Bambridge, our Partnerships for Parks outreach coordinator, who advises us about grant applications and has been a constant supporter in our efforts to improve our park. The volunteers at Sir Winston Churchill Square Park hope you'll find time to visit our peaceful little oasis very soon. We enjoy working in our park and serving our community. We do all of this, of course, because we live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. You know, as Bert was talking, I couldn't help think about it. Alexis de Tocqueville came to the United States many years ago, and one of the things he found to be true, it was amazing, the things that he realized about our country, was that in Europe, everybody pretty much locally depended on the state. They depended on first the king or queen, and then later on the national government. But here in the United States, he saw even then that Americans were different, that they really got together by themselves locally and really depended upon themselves to make their communities better. And as I saw Bert read, I thought this is what's really great about America. People like Bert Waggett, who get involved in their community, who can come up here and tell you all about it, and who make a real difference in their community by getting involved. That's not something that happens in a lot of other countries, and we should be very grateful for people like Bert and his neighbors who get together. The second thing that struck me was how Winston Churchill Square sort of represents what's great about Greenwich Village, because it's something that is small, irregular, charming, something you come upon as you're walking along and sort of discover, like a lot of the village. And the naming of it is even sort of idiosyncratic. Some of you may have speculated, some of you may know, but yes, it is true that Commissioner Henry Stern named it because it was across from number 10 Downing Street. And there are a few others. There was Dead Dog Park. That was an interesting name that he gave to a park at one point. But what he sought to do was, through some humor and some history and also some sense of what the place was all about in a nice way, to bring people to certain parks with some fond memory as when they were children. And they played in a park and they called it the Green Park, or the Secret Garden Park, or the Small Garden Park. So these are things that are all important. They're small, little things, but when you put them all together, they make a big, big difference in a community. And I want to thank the Society for recognizing this in Sir Winston Churchill Square. Thank you very much.
The next award is to the other pharmacy, Block Drugstore. When Carmine Palermo Sr. began working at Block Drugstore on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 6th Street in 1962, a drugstore had already existed on that spot for 70 years. The Palermo family has since preserved more than just the historic storefront. At Block, they know customers by name, go the extra mile in filling prescriptions, and contribute to the neighborhood in a myriad of small ways. Opened originally in 1895, the store was owned by the Levine family for many years. In fact, that family still owns the building. In 1942, the store changed ownership and the name was changed to 2nd Avenue Chemists. The store eventually took on the Block Drug name at a request from the Block Drugstore chain, despite remaining independently owned and operated. The store's iconic neon sign arrived during this time in 1945. Block is a family affair. Carmine Sr.'s children all worked in the store as teenagers. Carmine Jr. started working for his father at age 16. He and his wife, Beth, who is also a pharmacist, currently own the store. While Block has always been a family business, the Palermos make a point of hiring local neighborhood kids to assist in the store, giving them a chance to learn business skills before college or their first job out of high school. It is evident the Block cares for the neighborhood in other ways as well. Out of power, like all of Manhattan below 28th Street during Hurricane Sandy, Block set up business on the sidewalk for those who needed prescription refills during recovery from the storm, able to confirm prescriptions for many despite lacking access to their computers. Their actions that week were typical of how the store regularly does business. Never one to sit idle, the Palermos will soon open Block Vision Care in an adjacent storefront in the same building. Beth, who obviously loves the challenge, has gone back to school to become an optometrist. In competition for the big chain stores, Beth and Carmine don't worry about that. As Carmine puts it, your competition is yourself. Block Drugstore has presented a Village Award for 125 years as a family-owned independent business providing personalized care and service to their customers and community. Accepting the award this evening are Block owners Carmine and Beth Palermo, Carmine Jr., and Carmine Palermo Sr.
I just want to say something brief. I want to thank the council and staff of the Historical Preservation. You guys are doing a great job. It's well needed. I would like to acknowledge, it's funny, I'm tight-tongued here. Usually I'm not. I talk a mile a minute. But I want to acknowledge, I'd like to thank them for acknowledging us as not only Block Drugstore's history, but our dedication and service to each and every individual patient and what we call our friends. Because we believe that that's how the business should be. We should serve the community as friends. I would also like to thank Marilyn Applebaum for piecing together my father, my wife Beth, and my brief recollection of our history. She did a great job and made a strong argument for us, and that's why we're standing here. I'd also like to thank the community, people like Terry Lunan, who have nominated us numerous times. She's a terrific person, as well as Robert Joyce and the rest of our community. You guys are great. You patronize us, and we really love that. And I guess I was going to talk about the hurricane, but it's okay. It was taken over. But I will say that these are terrific people. My father's terrific. He laid the groundwork for my success. And my wife, she's terrific. She's better than my right hand. She's just, her service to the community is second to none. And I just have to say thank you to everybody. Thank you.
When I was invited tonight to be here, I thought it was pharmacy night. I thought I was at a pharmacy conference. Like, pharmacist, the independent pharmacist is really a very, very important person. He probably could be the most important person in your life. That's not only speaking about me, but my fellow pharmacists. When you go into pharmacy, the young people go into pharmacy, sometimes they just go in for the money. But they learn after a while that you develop a heart if you didn't have one. And it happens all the time. And we've always believed that the customer or the patient came first, not the doctor, not us. They were the most important. And you have to protect them. The medicines are so there's so many prescriptions today, different medicines. Years ago, you had one antibiotic, one aspirin, one cough syrup. Today, you got 20, 30, and they're not all alike. So he's a very, very important person. And I think that whoever pharmacy you go to, you must develop a relationship with the pharmacist, but he probably wants to develop it with you. And you never know when he'll help you. You never know. Your family, your relatives, your cousins, anybody. And they get paid for nothing. They don't ask for it. Now you go to the dentist, you got to pay a fee just to go into the dentist's office. That never happened before. When you fill the tooth, you pay them. They don't fill the tooth, they still charge you. Pharmacists work for nothing, but they really want the help. And that's why most of the people that go into pharmacy, they end up with a heart. So my advice to you is to get a good pharmacist, like the two our fellow pharmacists that are here, and use them, and they will help you. And to me, that's the gift of being a pharmacist.
The next award is to Jeremiah Sheay. For nearly 20 years, Jeremiah Sheay has served on the 9th Precinct Community Council, transforming the organization from one that operated for the benefit of the few to one that has developed productive and open communication between the police and the community it serves. When Jerry, as most call him, arrived in the East Village in the 1990s, neighborhood crime, particularly drug dealing, prostitution, and theft, was rampant. The community council that Jerry arrived to was incompetent at best, corrupt at worst. Frustrated, Jerry shook things up, got himself elected to the council, and shortly thereafter became president. He welcomed the community into monthly meetings, invited the precinct to listen to community concerns, and began a series of programs for the community. Today, an average of 100 people attend each monthly meeting to review and discuss police matters in the neighborhood. Being polite to people who turn in 20s is one of the things. Not send them to Bellevue. The annual toy drive and Christmas party is the most popular of the community events, which the precinct and council work hand in hand to produce each year. Hundreds of children are treated to entertainment and hot chocolate while they wait to see Santa, who distributes plenty of toys collected by the precinct. While Jerry notes that his biggest coup in 17 years of planning this event was to secure the head Macy's Santa for the party, he does admit that the highlight of his service to the community council was playing Santa himself. Understanding that the officers from the precinct are as much a part of the community as their residents and businesses, Jerry created a yearly recognition program for members of the precinct 17 years ago, creating a space for the community to thank the police officers and detectives for their service. Held each year at the Cooper Union's Great Hall, it recognizes officers for their service in front of their families and the community. They are treated to a wonderful reception donated by local restaurants. While he will be retiring from the council this year, he has left a healthy organization that will continue to thrive and instill cooperation between the precinct and the neighborhood. A village award goes to Jeremiah Sheay for his 20 years of dedicated service to the 9th Precinct Community Council, fostering open communication, trust, and goodwill between the local police and the East Village community. Jeremiah Sheay.
Thank you. I have to correct Mr. Trillin, and I'm a little nervous doing that. That's, well, but I have to. When he said earlier that single-handedly I did, I have done nothing single-handedly at the 9th Precinct Community Council. It is a council. There are 6 or 7 of us at any one time. And every precinct in New York has a community council, and a lot of people don't know this. And if you want to get involved in your community and not just be an observer, but a hands-on involvement, there's no better place than at your community council to do it. And everything we've achieved there, we've done because in the first instance, it was the police department. It was their way of reaching out to the community to create these community councils. It was done in the 1940s. They've been in existence since the 40s. And it was in cooperation with the department and with this precinct, the 9th Precinct, which is in the East Village, that we have been successful, and we have much to be proud of. But it is because of cooperation, because of that precinct reaching out in the community, and we reached back, joined hands, and we've achieved some things that we can be very proud of. And I'm very proud tonight to stand here. If this is how it feels to be honored, it feels very, very nice. Thank you all very much.
I'm happy to take that correction. I'm reminded of that old story of the man who comes across a turtle on top of a fence post, and the turtle said, "As you may have gathered, I did not get here on my own." The final award this evening goes to the New York University Faculty Against the Sexton Plan. Officially formed in 2012 in opposition to the NYU 2031, or Sexton Plan, after the university's president, the New York University Faculty Against the Sexton Plan is a bold coalition of faculty members in public disagreement about NYU's expansion plan in Greenwich Village. For many years, individual NYU faculty members have been outspoken dissenters against the expansion of New York University into the village. But it wasn't until the first official piece of NYU's expansion plan, a 400-foot tall tower proposed for the landmark portion of the I.M. Pei-designed Silver Towers complex, that faculty members began to officially organize. Their actions are particularly valuable to GVSHP, as the actions have helped transform the debate around the NYU expansion from one of university versus community. NYU FASP posits that the 2031 plan is financially reckless and will result in rising tuition for the students, disregards faculty input and governance, will further erode the rich cultural history of the village, will bring more than 10,000 more people in foot traffic per day to an already overdeveloped area. The group has allowed many of the faculty anxious to speak out publicly against their employer a vehicle to express their collective opposition to this plan. Through FASP, the faculty can make their individual identities as anonymous or as explicit as they choose. Outspoken critics in the public realm during the public hearing process, NYU FASP also worked from within to defeat the plan. They helped secure a resolution by 39 departments and divisions at the university against the plan. When the 2031 plan passed through the public approval process with only minor modifications, NYU FASP led the charge in securing legal counsel, the international law firm of Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher, to represent opponents in a lawsuit against the approvals. While the lawsuit goes through the legal process, the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation applauds the role NYU FASP has played in opposing the plan. For its courageous, outspoken, and effective activism in response to the NYU 2031 plan, New York University Faculty Against the Sexton Plan is presented a Village Award. Here to accept the award is Mark Crispin Miller.
Wow, this is great. All of my colleagues who are here tonight, I want you to come down and join me in the picture. Okay, I assume some of you are here. I wish I could read the names of all our members out loud, but most of them would have heart attacks if I did it. It's that kind of place. I mean, you saw the man, right? But I suppose, no, I say that with all due respect. Suppose I should actually thank him, I'm serious, for providing the impetus to get us together with the community. And I want to thank the society for giving us this award, which kind of certifies the fact that we are absolutely united with our neighbors. We are villagers. You see? But the only point I want to make in these remarks is that we need to put this struggle into a larger context. As some of the previous awardees have implied, it isn't just the village, it's also the neighborhoods adjacent to the village. I want to add, it isn't just downtown, it's the whole city. What we're fighting here is the annihilation of New York City, the annihilation of New York City by this mayor and his cronies, right? We're talking about a process that is absolutely unacceptable. We're talking about the process whereby these gigantic, impersonal, faceless, ugly buildings are jammed down into the middle of communities. They knife into these communities and tear them apart, destroy them, okay? It is culturally, aesthetically, economically, socially, politically, in every conceivable way, absolutely unacceptable, and we're standing against that, see? So, when they say to us, or about us, that we are NIMBY, you know, that we're parochial and backward, and we're fussing around, concerned only about the preservation of our own little backyard, you know? Well, what I want to say to that is that we're actually the ones who are taking a responsible view, not just of our neighborhoods, not just of our entire cities, but actually of the entire planet, you know? Because what we're talking about here isn't happening only in New York City, right? It's happening obviously all over Turkey, isn't it? Some of you may have read that big piece, that horrifying piece on the front page of the Times about what's happening in China, the kind of forced urbanization of that entire country, right? It's a Sexton plan for the entire planet, right? I mean, that's where Mayor Bloomberg should go when he's out of here. He should go over to China, right? Shouldn't he? I mean, nobody get in his way there, right? But I mean, there are movements like this in France, in Argentina, in Tunisia, in Casablanca. What we're talking about here is ecologically essential, you know, as well as a way to keep our own cities human and habitable and comfortable, and we don't have to apologize for wanting to keep them that way. There's also something larger at stake, which is really the survival of the species and of all species. Okay? And that sounds too grandiose, I'm sorry, but I actually happen to believe it. And I also believe something else, okay? We are pressing forward with this fight in court and in the court of public opinion, and I assure you that we are going to win this. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to Mark and to all of our awardees tonight. Just a few words before everybody gets out of here. First of all, I want to thank our wonderful MC for the evening, Calvin Trillin, who, as always, does an incredible job and makes us proud. I want to thank all the GVSHP trustees and especially our president, Art Levin, who was able to be here tonight, although not on stage, hopefully next year. I also want to thank and mention Anna Savarin on behalf of Dave, who didn't get a chance to mention her in his remarks regarding ban. I want to ask all of our awardees and our trustees, if you can just stay here for a minute or two more. We want to take a couple of quick pictures of you before you go. Trustees, stay here as well because we have a little bit of quick business to do. But everybody else, please join us for the reception. You can just exit, make a left and a left. It's in the sort of courtyard area between the two buildings. Thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you had a wonderful time as we do, and I hope to see you next year and, of course, before then.